So it's actually like a lot better now. This feels more natural to drive, and like I'd still like to see the front end improve. Basically, the front end, it feels like there's too much stiction in the front end, but not enough damping. So I want it to move more freely, but have a bit more damping, especially on the rebound side, because when you turn in, like, it's a nice feeling when you can get the nose to tuck in. Like, you turn and the nose kind of tucks in, and that's obviously coming from the rebound, because what you're doing is the car's rolling over, but you're keeping that front inner corner held down. So yeah, you just, and it just gives you a more instantaneous response. So that would be really nice to see. In terms of balance, the car feels great. You know, it's yeah, like I mean, it could be a tiny bit more oversteery, as I said, but like totally sweet. You know, like it's not anything that needs messing around with. And honestly, if you did mess around with it, it would probably make it worse. So, in the sense that, you know, an inexperienced driver could get some like lift off oversteer. So yeah, no, it's a really nice car. Well, the other thing is, yeah, just the steering. So it actually feels a bit better now with you know, a minor tweak to the rear. You'd be surprised, but that can really make a difference. But yeah, just getting a bit more liveliness into the steering would be nice, and there's different ways of attacking that. One, I actually think the steering is kind of too light, or it lacks definition on center. That could be a caster thing, so, you know, adding a little bit of caster is not going to hurt. Also, like, yeah, basically it's got a hydraulic steering rack, so changing the valve, or basically just changing the torsion bar inside the valve, leaving the valve, probably do it. Yeah, basically giving less assistance on center, while also still giving you the full assistance when you're fully cranked open. So you want a stiffer torsion bar in the steering rack to get that effect. Yeah, and like actually now with the rear end a little bit more loose, like it doesn't feel so like it's almost like the ratio feels a little bit better. Like, don't get me wrong, the ratio still feels pretty slow, like the steering ratio, the rack ratio I should say, and it would be nice to have it a little bit more direct, a bit more sporty, but you know, I suppose you can get by. The other thing there is the tyres. So the tyres play a big part in that 2-time response that I was talking about before, and that obviously is, you know, you're on centre, like just these small movements, and the delay time between when you turn and when the car reacts is very much, you know, impacted by the tyres. So yeah, but ironically, changing the ball joints is going to make the car, it's going to free up the front end a bit. So some of the ball joints were a bit knackered, so they might be starting to get a bit sort of sticky or frictiony. So changing those, on one hand, that's actually going to make the response, like that stiction actually does help you when you're just turning in, because it's kind of giving some resistance, but it's kind of the wrong way of achieving that end. So the better way of achieving that's through the well damped, but just it's got a big V12 sitting on the front axle, so that's, you know, a little bit of extra help there. It's not going to hurt it. But yeah, all in all, a lovely car. So lucky enough to have a beautiful Jaguar E-Type Jag here. Here's the engine bay. You can see there's definitely 12 cylinders there. Got the 4 Stromberg carbies. It's a lovely bit of kit. How's that for some beautiful film work? So here we are under the car, and a few little points of interest. So you can see it's got a torsion spring on the front, which has certain advantages and obviously certain disadvantages. It's not popular these days, apart from on Ford Rangers. This car had an upgraded steering rack put in it, so it's got a H-Pass steering rack out of a Ford Mondeo, I believe. Coning shocks in the front, which feel about right when you're driving the car. That they probably could do a little bit more rebound. Yeah, you've just got a pretty simple double wishbone design here, nothing too revolutionary. Pretty adjustable, so you can change the caster up there with a thread on the. Don't know if you can see that. There's a thread on the on this link here, so I'm guessing you could change the caster. None of that lower one, interestingly. But yeah, nothing too dramatic here on the upright. It's got the ball joint the right way around. So most modern cars don't even have that. So if the ball joint fails, it gets pushed back into the upright. Some of these could use a bit of love. And now that top ball joint up there is completely stuffed. What else? Here on the left, yeah, the top ball joint here is knackered. This one is also completely dry. Which is interesting because the car felt a bit, kind of felt basically hard to put into non-engineering words, but like it had a lot of hysteresis in the suspension. And so like it was over damped, but almost like a stiction kind of damping, not a damping. And that would explain that. I think the car would probably feel an awful lot better and freer with just a whole bunch, you know, new ball joints all around. That was one of the first things I noticed about the car, and that's interesting that it's got knackered ball joints. That's a pretty easy fix. Yeah, what else? Oh, the other thing is I don't really like the steering. It feels pretty dead on center, and I was looking at if you look up here, it's got a very kind of weird and wonderful routing for the steering intermediate shaft. It's a very long shaft, and then it's got some weird and wonderful angles. I don't think that's been optimized to get the best on center response, so that could be played with. Up the back, pretty cool. It's got inboard brakes and double shock absorbers, double struts for each side. Pretty cool. Like, I haven't had a good look over it all, but yeah, maybe some of these bushes are getting a little long in the tooth. I didn't notice anything untoward from the rear end. I actually thought, if anything, the rear end felt a bit too glued down versus the front. Like I thought the front probably had a bit too much, had not enough rebound on the front. But the rear probably had a bit too much damping to get the car to feel a bit more lively. In terms of balance, the car feels good. So like it's just on the safe side of neutral. You could go a tiny bit more oversteer if you wanted, but then you'd be, you'd have to be a little bit more alert. So yeah, I think the balance is fine in terms of springs. Like the roll's fine, the roll angle of the car. Yeah, I wouldn't really change any of that. It feels about right to me. Like I said, if you wanted to feel right on the edge of like really neutral / tiny bit oversteer, you'd go a little bit more spring on the rear. But yeah, I honestly don't think you need it. And then, yeah, I'm actually gonna, I think I might I checked and there's 8 clicks on the rear suspension. I might back it off 2, just to see if it feels like a smidge more lively and a bit more free. And then the other thing obviously would be just changing those ball joints and playing around with the steering intermediate shaft. I'm not too sure what these front dampers are like. I mean, yeah, if they were easy to adjust, I'd put on a bit more rebound on the front. The car felt fine over bumps, so it doesn't have any real nasty bump steer or anything like that. It's actually quite nice too when you're braking mid-corner. It's quite neutral and it doesn't oversteer too much.